Welcome back to another episode of the E-commerce Revolution podcast. We're coming to you on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to take a minute and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and stick around to the end of the podcast for an amazing tip from our guest that is sure to kick your e-commerce business into high gear. Our goal for each and every one of these episodes is to educate and entertain you on all things e-commerce. My name is Ramin, and it's great to have everybody here today. So let's get things started.
This is just the beginning.
Today's episode is all about leveraging social influencers and ambassadors to grow your e-commerce business. Today's guest has built an amazing piece of software that essentially uses automation to scale the influencer and ambassador programs for top e-commerce brands. Our guest is also an avid rock climber, so we'll have to learn a lot more about that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Brett Bernstein, founder and CEO of Gatsby. Brett, great to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you, Ramin. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Where are you connecting from today?
So I live in San Diego, actually born and raised here. Just moved back. I say just, I moved back before the pandemic. I lived in San Francisco and LA before this. And it's good to be back home, you know?
Yeah, I love San Diego. On my list of places to eventually live, but cost of living there is creeping up there, I bet. But
totally,
it is
coming from San Francisco before this, I mean, and nothing is like San Francisco except for maybe New York. So
right, yeah, but you have the beach there. It is as close to Hawaii as you can get in California, in my opinion. So I love San Diego. So great. So before we get into the business side of things, I just want to talk a little bit about, we mentioned at the top about rock climbing. And I think every entrepreneur needs that outlet, right? Something that they're passionate about, something obviously that, helps them evolve, helps them get stronger, takes them away from business. How did you get into rock climbing? What was tell us more about that journey.
yeah, I mean, it's I think kind of what you just hit on. I was, normal, going to the gym, kind of going through the routine. But I would find that since starting Gatsby over 5 years ago now, I had a hard time like detaching from all the things going on and going and running on a treadmill or lifting weights or doing push-ups. Like those things they just couldn't distract me the way that I needed to be distracted. And I also just needed more social in my life because you work, as an entrepreneur, it could be very isolating, especially as a small team.
Sure.
And one morning I woke up on a Saturday and I said, I just need to do something else today. I can't go for the normal gym or the normal run today. And it was honestly just serendipitous. I just was at brunch. I Googled like a local rock climbing gym. Honestly, that was it. And I just went right from brunch. I was getting so anxious to do something new.
Wow.
And I found that it's like the most engaging activity I've found as far as both for mental but also for physical. So I leave the gym, rock climbing gym, just totally spent physically. But the best part is that wall, like trying to get from point A to point B by climbing that route. It's a mind puzzle, right? And you have to figure out not only physically how you can get the strength, but also mentally how you can make your body move a certain way to get to that next hold. And it's the best thing I've found as far as being able to like detach from all the crazy stuff going on and just focus. It's, I guess, my meditation, you could say.
I love it. And so important. And, while I know that you're doing this to, detach from the business side of things and really let your mind rest and focus on something else, are there any parallels that you've seen over the past couple of years since you've been doing this between rock climbing and building a business?
I actually haven't thought of that before you asked, but I mean, I guess one thing that I would say is in rock climbing, and I'm not an expert by any means. I like to go and like I said, go to the gym essentially. I've done outside climbs as well. They're a lot more difficult, but what you strive to get better, and the way you get better is you do harder routes. So right now, let's say I do a V4 or V5, which I've been told at my gym is very challenging, I would say.
Wow.
But like, you start at V0, right? And you get up to V1, you get to V2, and it takes, you can't just have brute strength to push yourself from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2. You have to have technique. You have to like learn how you can actually move your body into certain ways to get that hold.
Hmm.
And I think the parallel I just off the cuff right now is, you can't just force your way into a market. You have to figure out what the market wants and how you can get there strategically, and build up the foundation to get there. And I think there's a parallel there, right? It's like
Yeah.
anything. You can't just push your way through. You have to build something people want and learn how to get there the right way.
No, I love that. And that's a perfect parallel. I think that's ultimately, you're right. You just can't jump in. You can't just jump into either one of them. Obviously, you have to really, understand where you're going, I guess in a world of rock climbing, if you're doing it outdoors, with that crevice that you're putting your fingers into, to pull yourself up, what that's going to do. And then ultimately on the business side, and you get into these markets, really studying it. And I love that. That's a great parallel. So yeah, you should get, maybe it's a book one day. Who knows?
Who knows? But I will say, I know what I'm probably going to say as my tip at the end, which I know you've
Yeah.
alluded to. And I think
Mhm.
there's a parallel there as well. I'm not going to kind of get into the last question or two you're going to ask
Sure.
now, but like you can't just jump into being a $1 billion business or $100 million
Right.
business. Like there's going to be a process, and I think same thing is true for this parallel as well. You can't just go to your first climb and do a V7, or even your first climb. You can't go outside as easily. You have to learn the foundation first, and then I'll kind of get into where I'll bring it back home at the end of our
Sure.
conversation.
Great. I love that. And we're gonna dive into Gatsby, obviously, and really talk about that. But you mentioned that Gatsby started about 5 years ago. Maybe prior to that, just talk about your entrepreneurial journey. What brought you to that place before launching Gatsby? What else were you doing? Have you always felt like you were an entrepreneur? Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, no, my entire life it's been something I've wanted to. I knew I'd become this when I got older. On both sides of my family, there's entrepreneurship.
Mm,
Going back, it was sort of ingrained in us that hey, you can do this business. You can start a business. It's not a foreign concept to me. It never was. And
mm.
I'm going to be getting married next year. I have a fiance now, and
Nice.
and I've always I'm looking forward to having kids and kind of instilling that same idea where hey, nothing's unreachable. So I bring that up because yeah, this is my second company. So my
Okay.
first company I started out of college with my dad. Actually, we did healthy
Wow.
vending machines in school districts throughout California,
Mm.
and we got super lucky to have started this just before the Obama administration. And as you may remember, Michelle Obama came into the White House
Yeah.
with a real initiative around the obesity epidemic, especially with our children in schools. And we got lucky to have already kind of positioned ourselves in that market. And so we grew that business to a point where we could not. We had contracts for three major school districts
Mm.
in the fall of one of the years, and it was like the summer. There was just no way we could deliver at our size. So we sold the business, and I was living in the Bay Area and in the mecca of technology at the time. And I got into tech from that point. I worked the next 4 years at a company that would go public called Box, BOX.
Oh
So I
yeah.
got
Yes.
my hand kind of, by the time I was 27, I had started and sold my first company, which was Natural Cravings, the healthy vending business. And then I spent the next 4 years at Box from a couple hundred employees up through the IPO. And by my late 20s, I decided I wanted to start my next business, which would become Gatsby.
Wow. I got to follow up on that. What's it like working with your dad?
It was great. I mean,
Yeah.
I lived in the Bay Area. He was in San Diego, so he sort of covered the San Diego area of that business, and I was up in the Bay Area. I actually had another co-founder on the team that was a buddy of
Hmm.
mine from college, so it was the three of us doing it, and it was really nice. We had that thread in common to always talk about the business, and yeah, it was a good experience for us.
No, I love that, and I think that's something that always comes up, especially in businesses that are both have a parent and a son, or a parent and a daughter working, and it's always people I think are very intrigued. I mean, I guess that's why that movie or that show Succession is around on HBO.
Love that show.
Yeah, isn't that a great show? I mean, I watched that. I'm like, it's ruthless. I would hope that my father would never be like that towards
No.
me, but and I think it's got some very interesting points on how you maneuver in a family operation, right? Definitely an important element there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True, and by no means though as big as the Succession,
Yeah.
family. Put it that way. Different problems.
That's different problems, exactly. Now, a quick word from Skew Agency.
So I have a question for you. Is your online store generating at least 30% of its revenue from email and SMS marketing? Here at SKU Agency, we have a strategic solution for that. As Clavio advisors, we've helped our clients generate millions in revenue from email and SMS alone. Combining the power of both of these channels is key to really reaching your customers and the overall success of your e-commerce business. But to help you better understand the value of email and SMS working together, we decided to offer a limited time, complimentary 45-point audit that will break down that opportunity for you. To get your free audit, go to skuagency.com and click the Book a Call button to get started. Now back to the show.
So tell us now about Gatsby. 5 years ago, again, you mentioned, you told us about your entrepreneurial journey, where you went, you and your dad started Natural Cravings, moved on then to work at Box, which is a great company, and I'm sure you learned some amazing lessons. How did Gatsby come about? What were you doing, and how did that idea just start up?
So what I started 5-6 years ago, which was still called Gatsby, was so much different than what we are today. So I didn't sit down one day and dream up this idea of scaling influencer marketing like in a silo. It wasn't my idea like over coffee or a drink. Instead, it was just a constant iteration that got us here through customer feedback and requests.
Wow.
And I just think that's the most, an important way to grow a business is just by having companies use it and give you feedback and requests and drives it. So I'll try to keep this super short, but the story goes that when I wanted to start my next business, I wanted to find something that was unique to my background, which had been healthy vending machines and enterprise software. And I came across a concept at the time, 2015-ish, called social media vending machines. This was a concept, haven't seen it around anytime recently, but essentially you looked at some of the largest companies at the time, like Old Navy, the PGA Tour, and Chase Bank guys come to mind. And they were doing this sort of campaign where they would set up, let's say, in the case of Old Navy, a new store on Fifth Avenue in New York City. And they would buy a vending machine, deck it out with their branding, fill it up with slippers. And on the side of the machine, it would say, "Tweet for your feet." And if you walked by the vending machine on Fifth Avenue, you could tweet about Old Navy and that would dispense a free pair of slippers.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Cool concept. It was a way of converting foot traffic into social media awareness, right? I thought the same thing, super cool. And there was an opportunity here because the barrier to this marketing campaign was very high. It was like $100,000 a month to run this campaign from what I saw in estimates between buying the machine, getting the permitting, the technology added to the machine, all of that. Super expensive. Most brands could never do it. So I thought, okay, if I can create this vending machine with this technology in it and place it on, in malls or movie theaters and have brands come through me and rent access to the machine on a monthly basis, that could be a way of providing this service to brands of all sizes. Well, I went to Kinko's, a FedEx office now, and I printed off a few flyers, and I just walked down the Santa Monica Promenade one day in 2015, asking companies if they wanted to do this. And this is literally this is a real story.
Wow.
And I got down to the end of the Santa Monica Promenade, and if anybody on the call or the podcast knows about the area, there's a mall at the end of it called Santa Monica Place.
Right.
And I went in there, I knocked on the door of the leasing company or the property management company of the mall, and I pitched the idea to them, and they loved it. And this was like November 1st of 2015. And they said, "Can we have this vending?" Obviously a couple of phone calls. It wasn't like that first meeting, but a couple of meetings later, they wanted this machine placed before Black Friday of that year. So within the next like 2.5 weeks. And I was like, holy cow, let me get back to you. And I looked at all of the numbers and like what it would take to get this thing done in 2 weeks. And I realized that I didn't want to go back to the vending machines. Like obviously there's something here because I had interest right away, but I wanted to not be dealing with all the hardware and the headaches that I had to deal with the first time around, which was like the vandalism, the insurance, the gas and the cars and the employees and the restocking. Instead, I wanted to just deal with virtual, right, with software, which is what I learned from Box.
Right. Sure.
So I declined the offer, and instead I looked at how I could take that idea of turning foot traffic into social media awareness and bring it to e-commerce. And
Hmm.
that's how Gatsby kind of was first born, was around that pivot. And this was now 2016. And the concept was very simple. It was, we built a pop-up builder in 2016 that allowed you
Hmm.
to connect your Instagram handle for a discount code. So it's
Hmm.
basically, it was like on a web page, you might see an attentive pop-up or a clavio pop-up or just Uno pop-up. Now it's like, hey, give us
Hmm.
your email address, get 10% off. Well, ours was at the time, connect your Instagram handle and post an Instagram post and get 10% off. It was a really cool concept, but as you can probably see where this is going, like the number one goal of that pop-up is to get leads. And there's just
Right.
more barriers in the one that we built that it just didn't, people loved it, brands loved it, but it wasn't able to scale because it didn't satisfy the number one requirement, which was get leads.
Hmm.
However, we got lucky. We got very lucky because right after we launched this thing, the Fire Festival happened, which transformed marketing in many ways. Because
Hmm.
prior to the Fire Festival, brands were dealing with large influencers. They wanted the big celebrity influencers, which was what they used at the Fire Festival. But post Fire Festival, after all of that, you know, just calamity,
Hmm.
brands started wanting more micro influencers. And Ramin,
Hmm.
like just by like sheer luck,
Wow.
one of the things that our very first version did was it told you how many Instagram followers that customer has
Brilliant.
when they opted into
Oh.
your pop-up. So we started seeing merchants using our software to identify which of their customers have a micro influencer following, because it wasn't available. You can't find that data in 2016 through any of the traditional influencer marketing services. Like they just didn't have a way of finding micro influencers other than going through Instagram and just clicking on profiles and
Hmm.
looking at hashtags. So I'm
Wow.
gonna like pause the story here, but that's kind of how we got
Yeah.
into the influencer strategy, and that was just 2016, and since then our platform has just totally transformed so many times over. But I just want to pause if it's all making sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have so many questions, so many follow-up questions. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the original idea, the one you saw on Fifth Avenue, with the vending machines and what you did. I mean, this is what every entrepreneur should be doing when you have an idea. You walked Third Street Promenade, you walked all the way to the end, you handed out flyers, you got to the end and you walked into the leasing office and pitched them. I mean, first of all, that's brilliant. That is what I think, if any entrepreneur is, in a mindset or somebody wants to become an entrepreneur, you got to take chances like that. You absolutely have to. And then, obviously things evolved. And then, I find it very interesting. Again, you mentioned that when you were working with your dad, in terms of Michelle Obama coming into office and really that movement towards, better foods, better snacks in schools, you guys were in the right place at the right time. And essentially Gatsby, the next iteration of Gatsby, the SaaS side of it, you were in the right place at the right time. You had that data, you had that influencer data, which is brilliant. I mean, so, maybe it's back to that. It's a lot of hard work in the world of entrepreneurship, but there is some luck involved too, right? Being in the right place, being in the
Oh,
right
I
time,
will never
having,
disagree with that.
yeah,
100%. I
yeah.
got lucky, but you know what? It's happened again. We got
Oh my
lucky.
gosh.
Right.
Wow.
So let me tell you what's happened. And maybe some of it's luck, maybe some of it's a little bit like on our team, like kind of thinking
Mhm.
about where things are going. But
Sure.
once we started getting into the micro influencer sort of strategy, and we started having brands using our tool for that, we started to strip out all of the extra stuff that wasn't necessary. So we stopped
Mhm.
building our own pop-up, and instead we allowed brands to just add a field for Instagram handle into their Clavio pop-ups, their
Mhm.
just pop-ups, etc. And it just made this whole program really scalable. So you can start to identify customers by influence. But here's what happened next is I started to think about how acquisition works on e-commerce, right?
Mhm.
So a few years ago, like even a year ago, especially like pretty much the formula for e-commerce success or for acquisition, I should say, was throw up ads on Google and Facebook
Mhm.
and just try to figure out the right keywords and the right audience targeting to get, a 3x ROAS on that spend. Kind of
Right.
what I've heard most merchants were doing at the time. And I thought, wow, that's great, but there's got to be a third channel besides Facebook ads and Google ads. in case anything happens, right? And
Mm.
that's a little foreshadowing. Um,
Yeah.
Influencer marketing has got to become more scalable. I really think that what we've built here, we could make this channel as scalable as Instagram ads or as Facebook ads, I should say.
Hmm.
So how would that look? How would that work? And that was the entire mission behind like sort of the current iteration of our product, which we released in 2020 with Clavio. So Clavio announced our integration with them, announced our product in November of 2020. And ever since then, it's just been off to the races for us. And the reason is because that solution we released in 2020, it did make influencer marketing as scalable. And sure enough, a handful of months later, we've now faced a situation where Facebook and iOS are obviously at odds,
Right.
and
Yeah.
being able to target is more challenging, and obviously the cost of acquisition has gone up, and merchants
Sure.
everywhere are looking for other ways to acquire, and it's been a great tailwind for us at Gatsby because they need ways to scale influencer marketing to acquire customers.
Sure.
We just released a feature on Monday of this week that allows you to actually track all the revenue that this community, this
Wow.
influencer community is driving for you. So we're really doubling down on this approach. And
Yeah.
again, just, it works. We're lucky, and that's what we're doing.
No, I love it. And for those who are listening who don't know about Clavio, it's a email and SMS marketing platform, one of the best out there. We use it, to help brands grow, and they're just it's such a great platform. And I love that you guys are very integrated with them. But let me just take a step back and let's just talk about influencer marketing for 1 second. Can you define, where does the micro level, what is that? Is it less than 5,000? Is there, what's that threshold number for a micro?
I've been asked this question for years, and there isn't a standard in the market. We have clients I go on calls with who want to implement our strategy for people who
Mhm.
have anything north of 500 followers, right?
Mm.
But then other brands, they in their mind think of micro as more than or less than 100,000. There
Mm.
is such a deviation in what brands are defining, and really what it comes down to is how many customers do you have at your disposal to work with, right? If you're a
Mhm.
smaller merchant, let's say doing under $1 million in revenue,
Mhm.
you're going to want to start at a smaller level because that's what you have access to. You have a lot
Sure.
more people that have 500 followers or more, and that army of influence can be built, right? And then
Mhm.
as you grow your business and you have more and more customers, you can start to see more volume at people who have more than 1,000 followers and 5,000 followers. But what we really care about, what we make available to merchants, is the ability to scale that micro influencer channel. And so, whatever you define that channel as, whether it be
Mhm.
500 followers or starting at 3,000 followers, it's all based on your kind of your unique volume and your unique need that you have as a brand. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Just in that terms, one thing that stood out to me when we first met, when we first learned about Gatsby and we came on those calls with you, it was that everybody that comes to shop, through an online store, all those customers, they are also influencers, right? They all have the potential to be an influencer at least, and not everybody is. And that ability, to get those people in there and then define where do they stand in the world of, social media, and let's give them something. Let's incentivize them to be an ambassador for us and out there, which I think is it's such a brilliant. People are passionate about your product. Why not, right? I mean, they're going to be out there, and if they happen to have a following on social media, even better. Give them the tools they need to get out there and talk about your brand. So I think
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. I think it's such a brilliant piece of software. I'm curious, where do you see influencer marketing just, as a whole going in the next 5 years? What does it look like? Yet have you put some thought into that?
I think there's a few interesting things that we could see it morphing into. First thing that comes to mind is I do think we're going to see some more distribution of channels. So
Hmm.
right now it's so heavily focused on Instagram,
Sure.
but we are seeing TikTok grow at a
Right.
faster rate than probably any other platform has since Instagram
Hmm.
for this channel of marketing. So I think they'll continue to spread. I think we'll see more channels that people are investing in,
Hmm.
especially with the advertising. Unless Facebook can figure out how to bring attribution back the way they used to, I think
Sure.
we'll continue to see people testing Pinterest and TikTok and Twitter
Hmm.
and LinkedIn
Yeah.
and Twitch and whatever else might emerge.
Hmm.
That's the first thing. I just think we'll have more distribution of channels. Second thing which I'm hopeful actually becomes a thing. This virtual reality, this metaverse, right? I think we're going to see more companies building products and
Hmm.
investing in virtual reality. And I might watch this podcast 5 years from now and just laugh at myself. Like, what was I thinking when he caught up in this?
We may
Uh,
all be doing that. Who knows? We'll all be like, saying, "Well, we missed that. We totally
Missed it,
missed it."
or
Yeah.
we were just totally like, what were we thinking back then? Because I was, my fiance was, or somebody, my friend maybe was talking about the 90s. And I had this really rare Game Boy system called Virtual Boy in the 90s. It
Oh,
was actually a virtual reality game headset thing. And, VR was there then. And it just went away, came back, went away, like came
right.
back. Who knows if this is any different? But
You're right, right. Yes, I think everybody, the jury's out, right? Everybody, I have some people who say, I don't get it. This is
yeah,
metaverse. Really? Are we gonna like be walking through this virtual mall? Why don't we just do it in real life? Why don't we just do that? And then there's the other camp, which is the, people who look at it from a commerce and say, wow, it makes it so much easier to do this, that, or get this and get that. So it's funny. I mean, I probably right now sit in the middle. It fascinates me. But at the same time, I also say, really? Do we need that?
I say really too. But then I have little cousins that are like,
Yeah,
in their 10, 12, 13 year age range. And like, I just see what they're doing on their phones. And it's
sure.
a lot. They're buying virtual products. You know what I mean? I just think there's going to be more market for virtual products potentially.
Hmm.
And there's going to be a need to influence with that. So that's one thing I also see. And
Hmm.
then third, and this is something that's not new and that I've been saying this for years, is just deeper understanding of authentic marketing, of authentic influencer marketing, right? Moving more and more movement away from the influencer. There's always going to be a place for the celebrity and the influencer to be attached to a product. That's not going away. But with tools like Gatsby to actually allow you to scale essentially word of mouth in the current
Hmm.
era, right? Being able to actually acknowledge when your customer posts content about you and has
Hmm.
1,000 followers and actually reward them for that behavior. You're not just rewarding them for referring an order anymore. Like an affiliate program is pretty linear. Like it's 10% commission on any orders you drive, right? And that
Right.
doesn't reward all the other things they could be doing for your business, like generating UGC, engagement on social media, posting content.
Hmm.
All those activities are getting lost in the traditional affiliate program. And I like affiliate programs. We're partners with them. Clients use us with them. But when you have Gatsby involved, you can actually start to broaden your approach. And that's why one of our clients, like ProMix Nutrition, they
Hmm.
actually renamed their ambassador program their family program. Because
Oh.
it's really about building a family with your customers. By becoming part of their
Hmm.
program, they have monthly Zoom calls with between one of their founders, which is an influencer as well in the athletic
Hmm.
space, and they get special access to perks, all these great things. Kulani Kini is another client of ours. Their program is called their Sun Chasers, right? It's their
Oh.
customers and they sell bikinis. They're in Australia, so
Hmm.
they're always chasing the sun. And it's not about just like that rigid affiliate or ambassador program or influence program. It's about building that community at scale.
Yeah. No, I
And
love that's
that's where we're
that,
going.
that I love that. And just tell me, so let's say I'm a Shopify brand,
Mhm.
and I've pretty good business going on. I'm selling. I'm doing traditional advertising. Maybe I'm doing dabbling a little bit in email marketing and SMS. Tell me how if I look at Gatsby, I give me a pitch. I decide that this is very interesting. What happens behind the scenes once Gatsby gets installed? What's the process? What does it look like?
So you'll start to be collecting Instagram handles or TikTok handles from your customers. So the same way you ask for email or ask for phone number in order to
Hmm.
do SMS marketing or email marketing, you ask for Instagram handle or TikTok handle, and then that information goes into your Gatsby account.
Hmm.
Gatsby enriches that. It basically pulls in all the publicly available insights on that person's handle. So you're going to see their profile photo, how many followers they have, their bio, all the keywords in their bio, and then we give this data to you in Gatsby. You can start to segment it in Gatsby. So you put your influencers, your customers, I should say,
Hmm.
into buckets based on influence. So all of your customers who have between 500 and 1,000 followers, that's a segment. 1,000 followers to 10,000 followers, that's a segment. You can actually start to kind of look to see how your customers just are distributed along this influence pane.
Hmm.
Then at that point, all of those segments, all those insights of how many followers, all that stuff, that syncs with your email marketing system. So like we mentioned, Clavio is a big partner of ours. So it syncs in with Clavio, but it also could sync in with OmniSend or Sailthrough or Rejoiner is coming out, and
Hmm.
other email systems you may be using. Or it could sync with Gorgeous for customer support use cases, or it could sync with Yotpo Loyalty or loyalty line pretty soon as well in order to bring it part of your loyalty program. The point is you now have this information like how many followers they have layered on top of whatever else you know about that customer. So you know what they've bought from you, you know when they first found you, you know what they've opened up email wise or SMS wise, and now you have their level of influence. And Gatsby, we will give you Clavio flows or OmniSend flows, like these templates that allow
Wow.
you to automate outreach. So if somebody has a certain degree of influence, you could
Hmm.
automate outreach to them. Say, hey, you're in our program. You've qualified for our program. Here's a code, a special code for you to share with your
Hmm.
followers that they can get a reward.
Hmm.
And anytime you mention us in a story or a post or a video, we will send you a special gift. We'll send you, our new product, or we'll send you a gift card worth X, Y, and Z as a thank you for enriching the community. And what's great is you don't have to be up on a Saturday morning checking your Instagram story anymore, which I know people do. You don't have to be in a Google spreadsheet, keeping track of all these conversations.
Hmm.
Gatsby will do all of that for you. We will track every time those ambassadors, those customers mention you in a story. We'll
Wow.
show you who posts that story. We'll preview the story for you. If it's a post, we'll save that content at UGC for you indefinitely.
Hmm.
And even better, Ramin, is what we will tell Clavio that story just happened so that you can go and automatically send that email, that SMS to that customer with their reward as you promised. Whole thing's
Wow.
automated.
I mean, the merchant in this scenario really, doesn't have to touch anything. It's working. Gatsby's working in the background, taking care of it. As your tagline is, scaling. Helping
Mhm.
scale your influencer marketing, which is a lot of work, as you pointed out. There's a lot of work that goes into if you were doing this manually, day in and day out. So, I mean, that's brilliant. And I just go back to I love some of these brands you mentioned have such unique names for their influencer programs or their ambassador programs. I think it's great because, it's important. It is a community, right? That's the point of it. It is a community that you're trying to build out there.
Yeah, actually, we have a new feature coming out this month, and it's going to be a full social listening suite. So you'll actually be able to have every person who's mentioning your brand on Instagram story, let's say, in your
Hmm.
Gatsby account, and you won't have their email address because they haven't opted in yet. But
Hmm.
you can go and ask them over DM, writing Gatsby, hey, DM them from Gatsby, what's your email? And then that'll sync over. And what's really cool is we've actually made that filter. It says if there's an email connected, you can customize that name, right? You can become Sun Chasers or Family Program. We want you to feel like it's not rigid. Like you own this community and you can change the name in Gatsby to be whatever you want. And I can show a video or a visual of that later. It'll make more sense. But the idea is
Yeah,
like to the
please.
point, this is all about the brand and their community and making it unique to them.
Yeah, that's great. Is there any data out there just in terms of, obviously when, you get into, merchants are looking to drive revenue. Do you guys ever get into a situation where you talk about, you can, if you use Gatsby correctly and you use all the integrations correctly, you should expect, or you can potentially expect, a revenue increase of X, Y, or Z. Is there anything out there that you can speak to that?
So our revenue tracking feature, which is that coupon code generation
Hmm.
and tracking all the orders, that went live on Monday of this week, so 3 days ago. We
Hmm.
don't have like obviously a case study yet on that feature, but we do have anecdotal evidence that merchants are very happy with the results. Right? They
Hmm.
go and they push out this campaign. They are getting people posting content. We see it at a rate. It kind of varies by brand and by offer, but north of 5 to 8% of
Wow.
somewhere in that range typically, and some of them even much higher, like 10, 15% of their ambassadors are posting content about them automatically. And those posts have higher engagement than normal influencer posts, right? You're talking about posts that are getting 10% engagement rates, right? Because these are people that have 1,000 followers, people that know them. So
Hmm.
the formula is all there. It's working. Our retention is very high with our customers. So clearly they're seeing the value both from the time savings we're giving them, the
Hmm.
UGC, the social engagement, and in their own way of tracking the revenue, which we'll soon be able to track as well through our application. I mean, basically tracking it now. We just don't have any
Right.
case studies yet at this point.
Wow, that's great. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure those will become very important because, as I said, every brand they love to know how much are they going to make. You can do that a lot in email marketing and SMS. You can, based on current traffic levels, based on current flow revenue. What can you potentially increase it if you added these new flows, optimize these, change these. So I think that's a huge component that you've added to Gatsby to be able to look at it from that revenue standpoint. I love it. I think it's what you're doing is amazing. I think this is a much needed piece of software. I'm sure the process is, you reach out to agencies like us, and we look to try to get it, mentioned to our clients. I think that's a great avenue to go. So I think that what you've done is great, from vending machine idea, pitching it, there in Santa Monica, at the leasing office at Santa Monica Place, to what Gatsby has become today is just a great journey. Great journey. So nice job on that. Nice job. So now it's time for you to circle back to that. We talked about that tip. You said you were gonna come at it from a different angle. So let's say you're at let's pick a school. Yesterday's podcast we mentioned UCLA, the Anderson School of Business. I don't know what the equivalent is down at maybe San Diego State or UC San Diego, but let's just say you walk into the entrepreneurship class and maybe there's a focus on e-commerce that day. What one tip would you give the entrepreneurs, the e-commerce focus entrepreneurs, to really, take their business to the next level, to get them excited? What one tip would you put in front of them?
Yeah. Well, and so I went to Cal Poly, by the way, in SLO. So for us, it's the Orfala College of Business, which is a lot of pride for my time there.
Nice.
So what I would say is, like, it's not as fast as you think, right? Like, I've been doing this for over 5 years, and a lot of people have come and gone in that time. People that raised a lot of money really fast that I know. And at the time, I wasn't jealous, but I was thinking, wow, I'm going the slow road here. Like, I've seen people raise $2-3 million in their first year, but now they're out of business. And I just keep going along. It's like the tortoise and the hare, right? It's like I just keep my head down and I focus on what matters the most. And I'm growing at a great clip right now. Our business is growing, but it wasn't like overnight. And people that only hear about us now think that we're brand new, and it's all overnight, this growth.
Right.
So the point is, like, when you start a business, at least I felt this way when I started, as I felt like I was, I wouldn't say failing, but I don't know. It was like I wasn't doing the right things because I wasn't seeing that immediate success. But when I thought about it, I realized this is not just a short-term thing. Like, the goal of this business is not to start it, raise money, and sell it in 5 years or 3 years. Like, I'm building a business for my life, like for my future, my children. And I'm thinking about it that right way. And to bring this home, the reason why I'm kind of bringing that context is, like I said in the beginning, I did not sit down 5 years ago and realize what Gatsby would become. It was all built through early customer interactions, listening to customers. You can see we have nearly 70, 80 reviews now on Shopify. Every one of them is 5 stars. Everyone. It's because we take a really, concerted effort to know our customers and know what they want and what they need. Kulani Kinis, like I mentioned, they have great feature requests, and we built them out. We prioritize what our customers are asking for. So my point is, like, don't get discouraged if it takes longer than you might be expecting, or what you see somebody else doing when they start their business. And 2 is listen to your customers, because if I had raised a bunch of money in 2017 for what I was building then, I'd be out of business now. But by staying lean and not overextending myself and listening to customers, I was able to navigate the world of Fire Festival, the world of Cambridge Analytica, right? The world of TikTok emerging. All these things happen, and we need to stay nimble. And I think keeping your ear to the ground and focus on the bigger picture, the long term, is what's allowed me to get in this position I'm in right now, which is, I'd argue, like, the best place to be. I'm really happy.
No, that's so well said. I mean, it is so easy to get wrapped up in, oh, that person did this and that company raised that, and oh, I should be moving at the speed of light, like they are. We don't know what's going on in their world. We just see maybe reports on the outside, and you go at the pace that you go at. That's who you are. That's your makeup. That's your way of operating, and that is great for what you're doing. maybe what they're doing, it's great for what they're doing. Maybe they crash and burn. Who knows? We don't know, But I do believe that, that's such great advice. And if I was sitting in that room, I would love to hear that because early in my entrepreneurial, I thought everything was supposed to be fast, like
Yep.
go quick, don't wait. And I'll tell you, it's just like, you're saying, it is not like that at all.
It takes time.
Takes time. Takes time. It's getting up every morning with that same passion too, and keeping it going. So phenomenal. I love what you guys are doing. Again, say it enough. And your entrepreneurial journey speaks to anybody who's listening to this. Whether you're a e-commerce brand, selling directly to consumer, or you're a software developer looking to build the next greatest software. The words that you're hearing today, this is how you should operate your business, in my opinion. So, all right. So let's dive into some rapid fire questions. You good with that?
Sure.
All right. So we've talked a lot about getting inspired. Giving some good advice to entrepreneurs. What gets you excited each and every day to wake up and tackle the day?
I have no problem with that. My entire life, I've been up super early. I wake up somewhere between 4:30 and 6,
Wow.
usually in the middle of that every single day. Naturally, I sneak out of bed and I get my coffee and my fresh air first thing in the morning. Like this morning, I went for a 2-mile walk. Usually, I jog, just get myself moving, and I'm just so excited about what I'm building. I feel this intense energy to like constantly just push forward. I mean, we have so much momentum right now, and part of me also feels like the opportunity is like ripe for the taking, and I don't want to miss out. So it's a mixture of good, cool, fresh air, really good coffee, and opportunity. Those three things. And of course, my puppy wakes me up too.
I love it. Wait, so what time are you going to bed if you're getting up that early?
Usually, so I rarely will ever work like super late. I definitely try to log off like before 5 or 6, sometimes before 4. Like it's just based on my day. And I'm usually off my phone, off my computer before 9 o'clock.
Wow.
And then it's just me and my fiance, and we're totally off our computers, and it's just nice.
Everybody who's listening to this, please take note. I'm taking note. This is the way to do it. This is how you can avoid burnout. All of this, the way you're waking up, getting into nature, getting that buzz of fresh air, and obviously a good cup of coffee definitely helps too. And you're excited as you're going on this walk. I'm surprised you can go on a walk that long. I feel like I would turn around. I was so excited that I got to come back and get to start working again. But you have discipline, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And also one more thing on that note, I took email off my phone about a year ago.
Really?
I don't regret it. Yeah, I have Slack on there. I have Slack and Skype. People get hold of me. I have obviously text messages, but I just found that I was checking my email way too often, and I was never able to detach. The same idea, like as the rock climbing, you just need you have to focus when you're focused, and you have to not focus on it when you're not focused on it. That's sort of how I felt about it.
Brett, I'm taking huge notes here. I'm so frightened to try that, but it makes so much sense because that's what happens. And Slack is not Slack definitely meant for quick back and forth, right? And you're not really going to draw action points necessarily. You may flag that Slack message as a remind me tomorrow morning because that was a really good idea. That was the beginning of a good idea that maybe I need to follow up a little more in a longer format through email. Wow. Okay, that's maybe that should be a new podcast question. What app would you love to remove off your phone but don't have the guts to do it?
Try it for a week. You'll see.
I love that. Okay, very good. Well, you answered the question about the drink of choice, but now I need to know, from a coffee standpoint, what kind of coffee do we get? Gussy it up. One of our podcasts was with Jack Johnson from Loyalty Line. I think it was maybe our second podcast. He called it, he likes to make a bougie coffee because he goes all in with the almond milk, or maybe it was oat milk, dresses it up. How do you take your coffee?
So kind of in that same answer, I like to do some things slow. So I do like to make pour over coffee for me and my fiance every morning. And I just get beans, and I usually mine, and I use black. I do black usually, but hers, I do dress it up a little bit. So I make hers with oat milk, honey, and cinnamon.
Wow.
I like just really good black coffee. I'll occasionally throw we actually just got an espresso machine a couple months ago because sometimes you can't make the 10-minute process.
Sure.
And for that one, it's a really dark, heavy coffee. So that I like to put in some milk.
Mm.
But I like it simple. I like black coffee.
That's great. I'm thinking that I'm going to change back to black coffee. That's all I used to drink, and then I don't know, somewhere along the way, almond came in and oat came in, and now it's a whole production, and it takes too long. And by the way, it doesn't taste like coffee anymore. It tastes like something completely different.
Yeah. Sometimes with an espresso, or I go to this like French bakery near my house sometimes, and I'll just get the cappuccino, whatever.
Mhm.
And those are good too. Like honestly, I just like good coffee.
Yeah.
I just don't like gas station coffee.
No, I'm 100% with you. So now tell me, so if you could do one job besides the one you're doing, what would it be?
Elon Musk, just be him. just be Elon Musk.
Oh, fantastic! Well, you got to buy it. Then you got to buy a 12% stake in Twitter instead.
Yeah, up into 12% now. Is that what it is now?
I think he's at 9% or something like that. You go 12%, you beat him.
Exactly. He's an inspiration. That guy.
Yes, he is. I was like, how does this man run that many companies? And I'd love to ask him, what excites him more? Maybe he just doesn't sleep. Maybe that's what it is. There's just no sleeping involved at all. So every day he's just moving. There's no beginning of his day, right?
Yeah, I wonder if he's like that, or if he's somehow surprising us and is actually like getting 9 hours a night. Who knows? Like I would not be surprised either way if he was able to accomplish.
And maybe he does not have email on his phone either. Who knows?
Maybe.
I love it. So besides Gatsby, what is your go-to software or app? What's the one that you can't live without? Now we know the one you can live without. You got rid of it off your phone, but what's the one that you just can't live without?
Well, I am disappointed that the Alexa app for Chrome, the one that, not Alexa, the voice thing, but right. Alexa, the traffic monitor. Mm-hmm. I am hurting that that's gone now because I like to look at sort of like the company traffic. So it just came to mind because we just lost Alexa. They just shut that down. Which by the way, my Alexa is now going crazy.
I think everybody's all the listeners, however many there are on this one, all their Alexas just went off asking, "What can I help you with?"
Yeah. But obviously I use a lot of Spotify. I'm a big podcast consumer. Not only yours, obviously, but also Stuff You Should Know and Up First in the mornings, the daily. But I listened to pretty much every episode of Stuff You Should Know. Like that was what I used to fall asleep to when I couldn't sleep like 5 years ago when I was starting this company. And if you don't know that podcast, it's just fun. These two guys are talking about everything random from like the most recent one was how NATO works, but they have stuff like how the post office works. Or there was also one about watermelons this week, like the history of watermelons. It's just really fun information that I bore people with all the time at cocktail parties or whatever.
I like that. I once read the history of bananas. I thought that was fascinating. Maybe these guys cover that or will cover that. I love to know that too. I like to know the backstory on so many things that we consume, right? Or are involved with. It's so fascinating to know, how did this come about? Why is this done this way? That's phenomenal. We'll put the links to those into the show notes. Good thing people are always interested in consuming new and different podcasts out there. So tell me, if you could give yourself one talent that you currently don't have, what would it be?
Probably, even though I don't want to have even more time on the computer, because I've often considered if I should do this or not, but learning how to actually develop software myself, right? So I have a team of engineers on our team. I do a lot of the QA testing myself because I want to know how everything works, and I do manage the sprints. But I can't physically, write the code that's behind Gatsby. And that would be a skill that I think would be just tremendous. And if I was starting school right now as a little kid, I think it should be just like, we used to learn how to type, right? When like fourth grade, we should learn the basics of software engineering because it's just so powerful and relevant. And I actually enrolled in a community college course to do it, but it was impacted and it was full. I couldn't do it. I just like something I'm considering. Like, do I want to invest all that time now in my career to learn it?
Right.
Do I want to spend more time on the computer? Is it a good use of my skills? But yeah, I just think it'd be great to know how to actually develop software.
Yeah, no, I think that's for the young, anybody young out there or parents of children, some sort of skill around engineering, coding, specifically, I keep bringing that up as something that our children should do because, it is where everything is going. And it's a great skill set to understand, phenomenal skill set. So, and I get it, you're running a software company. You definitely have that, that desire, what does it look like to do what those engineers are doing, what those developers are doing. No, I think that's great. So tell me about, you see the world of e-commerce a lot. You see a lot of brands. What are your, do you have a favorite online store or a couple that you go to and shop at regularly?
So I'm biased towards my customers. I love the brands that work with us. This shirt right here is from Pair of Thieves. I have like 10 of them. I always wear black shirts, black or white shirts typically. And they're Pair of Thieves. I love their shirts. They're a customer of ours. Speaking of coffee, we had a new company sign up this week. It's women-owned, like beautifully well-designed coffee brand called Pop and Bottle. And I'm buying their stuff now. Really, really delicious. They sell them in grocery stores all over the country.
Wow.
Kulani Kinis, like I mentioned before, great swimwear. I just love our stuff. Like Almond Cow is a great. You mentioned almond milk. You can make almond milk at home using Almond Cow.
Oh wow! Okay.
I could just go on the list.
Yeah, you're very loyal, and I love that. I mean, you're working with good brands too. I mean, they're making good products. So at the end of the day, it's probably not that hard to appreciate them and utilize them. So, and I think that's the great thing. Wow, those are some great names. We'll definitely get links to those in the show notes. I think again, everybody's always interested. What's that other store? Somebody, Sina Mobasser from Tapcart came on yesterday, and he said Target, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Nobody's big, but he talked about the UI and how easy it is to do. And he came at it from a design standpoint and the flow and how that fits into the physical world at their stores and the pickup and all that. And I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it too. But at the end of the day, we all have our certain ones and, that we just love. Just so easy, whether it's the product or maybe even sometimes the process of purchasing and how you get it. Maybe the unboxing moment too is great for a lot of people. So thank you for sharing those. I think those are great. Well, I think this has been a phenomenal podcast filled with great tips, fascinating software that you are building, what it looked like 5 years ago, what your world looked like before that, and what has brought you to this point. So I sincerely appreciate you making the time to come on today and share all of this. We'll be obviously promoting this and getting it out in front of as many people as possible. But maybe just take a moment and tell people how they can find out more about Gatsby, how they can maybe reach out to you on on social media. That would be great.
So if you are a Shopify merchant, we recommend using our Shopify app. It's the simplest way to install Gatsby to your store. So you can just search for Gatsby in the Shopify app store. We are there's two Gatsbys. One of them is like a software engineering app, and then there's ours. So that's one way. And then our website is Gatsby.ai, and you can get a hold of us there. You can chat us on the little widget. It goes to our team. I often look at those as well, so you might get me on the response. Nice. I'm also on LinkedIn, of course.
Right, that's great. But they won't get you after 9 p.m., correct?
No, you get an autoresponder saying we'll get back to you in the morning. Although Jared on my team, he is often working. I tell him, go to sleep, relax. And he just loves to respond to our international clients in the middle of our day. And so you might get a response. It's kind of a surprise.
Well, that's great. We'll definitely put a link to the Shopify, specific link to the Shopify app in the show notes so people can see that. Brett, thank you so much again for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Love talking to you each and every time. I learned so much. I've now learned an immense amount of information, including maybe taking my email off of my phone. At least trying.
Right. What happens.
At least
thank
trying.
you so much for having me on too. It's been great talking to you.
Of course. All right. That brings us to the end of another episode of the E-Commerce Revolution podcast. Don't forget to check out past episodes. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on LinkedIn as well. And as always, if you need help with your email and SMS marketing, you can reach us at hello@SKU Agency. That's skuagency.com. Mention the podcast and we'll hook you up with a free audit of your email and SMS worth about $850. Thank you very much, everybody. See ya.
This is just the beginning.
If you enjoyed this episode of the E-commerce Revolution podcast, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube or drop us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you very much.